I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast gems.
Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
New Icy Hot. Nighttime recovery. Relieves pain at nighttime while your body recovers. Icy Hot. You're so back.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
This season on The Dream.
Supplies are being provided by nurses who run out in the middle of the night and purchase diapers, but a hospital is still charging as if they still have these items.
We are digging into every topic we've ever wanted to cover on this show.
It's a spinning plate analogy. The second that you stop spinning those plates, that crashes. So you can never stop working.
The Dream Season 4 comes at you weekly starting Monday, January 20th.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hello, you guys. Welcome to another episode of What's Your Issue? My name is Troy McEady.
And I'm Dara Laine Sussman.
And we are very much switching gears this week from what we covered last week. Last week was like fun and bright and poppy and youthful and spirited. And this week's episode is a little bit more grimy, a little bit more down and dirty.
And Troy, this is your pick. So I'm going to ask you the titular question.
Yes.
Troy, what's your issue?
So my issue is the March 2008 Blender magazine with a photoshopped photo of Britney Spears on the cover, a very controversial cover for the time. And for now, I mean, it feels highly inappropriate that this exists. I chose this because it's like one of the most insane articles I've ever seen written about Britney Spears.
Troy, can I just tell you, I was on the edge of my goddamn seat reading this article. Like, truly Pulitzer worthy. From top to bottom, it was phenomenal, and I cannot wait to talk about it.
It's a doozy. Like, really prepare yourself for this one. And so we both just kind of have a feeling that this is going to take us a little while to cover because there's a lot and we're going to have a lot of opinions. But just know that I did also pull some other like really great articles from this magazine. So if we end up going over an hour or something, which I'm almost positive we will, we're still going to do all of the other articles on Patreon. So we're going to be talking about R. Kelly's triumphant return in 2008. Thank God.
The people were begging for it.
Right. A I Know Who Killed Me era Lindsay Lohan, where the title of the article is literally bags 3 dudes and goes off the wagon in Italy.
Like only a queen could.
There's a Miley Cyrus virginity poll. Now, I want to ask you if you had any sort of relationship to this magazine, because Blender, in my mind, was very popular in mainstream or whatever, but it wasn't until the past few years where I've really like amped up my collecting these magazines, where I find that Blender was a very niche magazine, and I thought more people read it than they did.
So I wouldn't say that I had a close personal relationship with Blender. Blender to me was more of a Barnes & Noble magazine. This was not a magazine I'm getting a subscription to.
Mm-hmm.
I am pulling it from the stacks, picking the choice articles. I definitely remember reading it. I also think the reason for that is, in hindsight, reading it, it's really interesting. But when I was in the moment in the early 2000s, the way they talk about women and stuff like that, at the time, I would not be interested in that sort of tone.
I don't blame you. As a young, impressionable, a young lady, it's truly tawdry. I agree with you. This is definitely, in my opinion, unless you were like a very mature adult person who had adult money and niche interests in pop culture, this was not a magazine that you were like paying for every week as a young person. It wasn't like a Teen People or something like that you would just see at people's houses. It was a store magazine. I think the girls listening will get that.
Yes.
And the reason that this became a really big part of my life was because at the time I worked at Hollister when I started reading Blender. Hollister used to like have magazines. That was like a big part of the store, was CDs and magazines. And they would just have these big stacks of really amazing magazines just sitting in the store that nobody would read, and I would steal them because nobody cared and they would just throw them away. So that's how I started collecting Blender, because I would steal them from work. It almost felt like blog culture, like Perez Hilton culture, and like Daily Mail culture and stuff like that, but in a magazine mixed with like Rolling Stone.
Yeah. Do you remember how respected Blender was as a magazine? Like, it feels very Rolling Stone and it feels very, I don't know, Pitchfork.
I personally felt like Blender was respected, and I felt like the opinions in Blender were respected because it was kind of like a hipstery vibe. Like it had like an Urban Outfitters kind of feel to it, but also like Mad Magazine, like mean and snarky, but like hipster vibes.
Oh, you're so right. That's a great way of describing it.
But it is really, I mean, it's brutal. Like, I can't believe some of the stuff that they got away with writing. And also because it was a little bit more snarky, it was a little bit more mean and crass and like sarcastic. It was a place where celebrities felt like they could go to be a little bit more like cunty, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, even the cover, thinking of you saying Mad Magazine, like even the cover has a certain sense of humor to it. Throughout the issue, there's little asterisk commentary on things here and there, which if I were to create a magazine, I feel like it would sort of have this tone, except for the overt misogyny. My magazine would not have that, but I feel like the cunty sense of humor is really fun.
I could not agree more. I'm so glad that you brought up the little blurbs too, because every single page of this magazine, again, the thing that reminds me a lot of like a Mad Magazine vibes is like you can like twist it and turn it, and there's all these funny little quotes and things. Like there are things on every page that every time you read it, you discover more. Just sarcastic, cunty little quotes, or like sometimes they're really tiny little sentences up at the top of the page that like you can barely read, that'll just say something about Fergie peeing her pants. It's very snarky, and the tone of it feels, aside, like you said, aside from the misogyny, the tone of it, the humor feels very current. It's like taking the piss, and it's like making fun of celebrity, but also celebrating it.
But also, you made me think of like discovering something new on every page. I just remembered that when I would get a magazine, because, you know, you only got one a month, I would personally savor it. So I would get my magazine sent in the mail, and I would do my first reading of the magazine where I would skip pages.
Oh, okay, talk about this. Keep going.
Oh, actually, this is actually maybe mentally ill. But the first read, I would go through from back to front, and I would do a quick flip through to see what was coming, but back to front, so it would feel like even more of a surprise.
Why is that such a part of like girl world? Why do women read magazines backwards? What is that?
I truly, Troy, I mean, I used to chalk it up to, and this makes literally no sense, the fact that I'm Jewish, and the Jewish Bible essentially it opens the opposite way. And I was like, maybe that's why I do it. Like, I don't read other books that way.
It's an integral part of girlhood. Even in TV shows and in movies and stuff, if there's like a scene of like teenage girls hanging out, they start the magazine from the back. And my friends all did that too. And my mom does it.
Shut up, Troy. I was walking around here and telling people that as if I was not like other girls. And you are actually, anytime I ever think I'm not like other girls, I am punched in the face with, you are quite common.
Oh, welcome to being a homosexual. I'm like, I love Celine Dion, and it's unique to me.
No one could possibly understand. But yeah, so the first read would be back to front. Second read, front to back, but skipping pages. And then the third read, I'm going letter by letter, dissecting.
You just verbalized something that I just never really thought about for myself, but it's true. Like, not in that exact order, but definitely, the first run through is just to kind of get a vibe of like what you're looking at. Like I'm not really reading anything per se. I'm mostly reading like blurbs and quotes and tiny little things. And it's also, I feel like, the time that I'm the most interested in like the fashion. I just want to be visually stimulated at that point.
Yes.
And then you get into like my second and third read is where I'm like, all right, let's read this article. Now, Blender is a music magazine. I guess I should say, like, it's a commentary on pop culture. It really feels like a magazine version of like Dumois or something, but at its core, it's a music magazine, like a snarky Rolling Stone. I have some blenders where I look at the cover and I'm like, God, I cannot believe that this was crystallized. Like, I have one of Gwen Stefani the month that she left No Doubt, and it's like, will Gwen Stefani be able to sustain a solo career? Like, can she do it? What will it look like?
Put that in the Smithsonian.
Like, the music element of this magazine in particular, was very important to me. It really shaped my music taste. It helped me curate playlists and stuff. And even looking back at this one, when I'm looking at the music recommendations, I'm like, damn, this really like influenced me. Like, I'm seeing like Vampire Weekend and Khalees and all the shit that I like ended up loving in life.
I was very excited to go through this because it wasn't as much a part of my oeuvre, and it's so fun. And I can so see how it influenced you.
It's almost better now that you have a full frontal lobe and you can read things like this and not take it with you. You know what I mean? Leave it at work.
Yes. Leave it at Hollister, baby.
Should we talk about this cover story?
Yes. Well, let's start with just the cover, the way they introduce the cover story, the little blurb. Britney Spears has lost her kids, her fans, her underwear, ... and her mind. Huge letters. How will it end? That is the darkest. Dude. I mean, you are saying, when will she die?
And the article is about that. It's like a snarky, when will Britney die? How will she die? Will we be sad when she dies, or will we feel like she deserved to die? That is literally what this is about.
There's truly no optimism at all. Just like, this is inevitable, and won't it be fun? It's truly bonkers.
And I think it's important to note that there is a blurb. The blurbs in this magazine are really what you have to find. Like, they're the best parts of the magazine. There's a blurb on the cover that says, "Truthness alert, this cover image is a composite photo of Britney. Britney did not pose for the picture. That sadly is not her body." And you look at this picture, and it's a photoshopped picture of Britney covered in sheets. And it looks like a photo that Britney would take. It looks like a Britney Spears picture. But then you scroll down, and there's a crumpled up Red Bull can, and there's a Mickey Mouse Club hat full of cigarette butts. And it's like, whoa. Like, it really like mind fucks you, because it's a good Photoshop.
I will say, though, I did look at it and I go, this looks Photoshopped to me. And it actually reminded me of, the YM magazine with Britney on the cover, and she's in a bathtub full of diamonds.
Mm-hmm. Holding
it, but it looks the Photoshop looks so ridiculous. But I feel like they did that a lot with magazines back then.
Yeah.
Like bad composite pictures.
Yeah, it's almost like a composite in the way that like you and I would look at like a bad AI now and be like, well, that's clearly an AI. But like a Facebook mom will think that there's 3,000 tunnels under the White House that they're keeping secret. Like, they have no ability to look at it and think that it's fake at all. And this is just so dangerous. Like, I mean, the idea that like she was already, this is like the height of, I know people talk about 2007 being Britney's crazy year, but like early 2008 was also fucking insane. And to do a cover like this, to make it look like she's endorsing this like public image of her, and this idea is like so dangerous.
Well, I wonder if the reason why they call out that, yes, this isn't real, I wonder if they were always going to do that, or if their legal department was like, you just have to be safe and
Mhm.
let people know that this is a composite. We don't need to get sued.
It reminds me of that magazine you have, that Playboy with the fake Paris Hilton.
Oh my
Where they're like,
God.
Paris posed for Playboy, kinda. That's really feels super inappropriate.
So inappropriate. But I will say, my fatal flaw is that whenever I see something, I'm like, I can make that. I desperately want to find a Mickey Mouse Club hat on eBay and create that as an art piece.
It's amazing. I mean, I guess I should also mention, because I wanted to, when else would you have to mention photo illustration for a cover photo? You know? But this was done by R. Mutt Studios, and the prop styling, the Red Bull and the Mickey Mouse hat and all that stuff was done by Aaron Valenvinch. So shout out to them for a truly snarky cover.
When I saw that they mentioned who did the styling, I was like, I want to find them on Instagram. Who is this genius?
Oh, and it was the article that we're about to read was written by Michael Joseph Gross.
Oh, one more thing about the cover. So sorry.
No.
My first thought when I looked at it was she is giving Abby Elliott.
Yes, totally.
Sorry, that was not important enough to completely derail us, but
no, you're right. And it's clearly inspired by, at this point, she had like posed in sheets. She did that Rolling Stone literally naked in sheets. It's giving kind of like My Prerogative video. They did a good job of like signaling Britney things to make it seem like it's her. But I almost kind of think that they made her look photoshopped on purpose just to like try and help people understand that this is like a joke and it's not real.
oh, actually, one more question for you.
Sure.
So, when you looked at this or looking at it now, can you tell as such a huge Britney fan that this is not her body?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking her hands are so small and then the wrists are so big.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that doesn't remind me of my Britney's arms.
No, it's not her arms. It's not her. It's also not a Britney pose, as psycho as that sounds to say. Britney would never pose like this. She just wouldn't.
Right. This is why I asked. I knew you'd know. Also, I feel like Britney's body, I know that she's cocking one hip to the side,
Mhm.
but I do feel like even without that, it's a little bit too much of an hourglass shape.
Yeah. The body is so off. They were like, we'll just find like an in shape white woman and then they'll think Britney Spears. But yeah, I guess we should get into this absolutely mind-bendingly psychotic article.
Oh my God. Pulitzer. Give them a Pulitzer.
I thought it would be interesting to talk about this because there's obviously so much conversation happening around Britney Spears still every day. And I mean, even as we're recording this, like she's gone viral for like clapping back at the Osbournes. Like every day it gets weirder and weirder. And it's interesting to see how history repeats itself in the way that we talk about her. And, right now it's like people are like much less sympathetic to her than they were like a few months ago because they don't like how she's handled her freedom and they want it to look different. They want her to be her old self. They want her to be 19 again. They want the abs back. They want music. They want her to be sweet and agreeable and kind and do interviews. We thought we had done all this like work. And then it's like, oh, it is March 2008 again, isn't it?
It is what's so interesting about this, the fact that we have someone like Britney who has been in the public eye and has been treated a certain way for 20, 25 years, to see the trajectory of it, where I feel like it's almost more of a commentary on our society than it is on her.
Yeah.
We're not any different from back then as far as our expectations of women and our mean-spiritedness towards women. The only thing that is different is the packaging. It's harder to be joyful and like giddy on Maine about her mental illness, and we're just as critical, but we have to couch it in kinder, softer terms. Like,
Yes.
oh, I'm just so worried about her. Like that's the only thing. It's like, no, you have expectations for a woman that you do not know,
Yep.
and you have no business feeling any sort of way about and being critical of, but that's just how people feel about celebrity women.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is much more a commentary on like famous women than it is about Britney. Like, I chose it because it's a Britney article, but the reason that I really wanted to talk about it is because of that. It's exactly what you said. I couldn't put it better. It's we just have soft terms. We use like these, you know, just because you use the word trauma 40 times in a sentence doesn't mean you're not being an asshole. Like, you're still being a dick, you know, just because you're like, her trauma, her mental health.
I understand that this is mental illness and she's been through trauma, but she's crazy and like maybe she should get that conservatorship back.
She needed it, and her dad was right all along. If that's how you feel, then you shouldn't be commentating on this at all, and you should have never been involved in it, and you should have ignored her and her mental health as you've been doing apparently for the past 13 years. Continue doing that, because now all of a sudden, because this is like a hot topic, you are a doctor. You're Dax Shepard, the armchair therapist, and it's like, no, we don't need those opinions. You know what I mean? We're good.
God, I don't want to hear Dax Shepard's opinions on Britney. I'll tell you that much.
Well, one thing that I wanted to immediately talk to you about. So the article opens with them like explaining that in this particular moment, Britney is under 24-hour surveillance. She's, as I said, like, I know that people equate 2007 to like her bad year, and then they think that the year ended and then everything just got better and Circus came out and it was all great. But in 2008, like, we were still in it. And they say that she's under 24-hour surveillance that usually is reserved for prisoners and people under suicide watch. This is so funny. So they start with a quote from somebody from X17. And they say, Felix, the team captain for X17, the paparazzi agency with the closest ties to Britney, will occasionally look down at his phone to find a text from Sam Lutfi, Britney's confidant and de facto manager since last summer. And he reads aloud, she's inside. And he says, Britney's money, says another X17 photographer standing next to the BMW that pictures of Britney have bought him.
Ugh.
Someone tells the story of the day they followed her halfway to Las Vegas. She got takeout from Taco Bell at a rest stop in the desert. Then she turned the car around and drove home. Britney is crazy.
Troy, may I just say, I wrote down that quote and that little snippet, not because I think it's so wild. It's because I feel like I would maybe do the same thing.
Hello.
You know, sometimes when you're just feeling a certain type of way, you're feeling bad, you just want to get in the car and drive. I could totally see myself being like, I'm just going to drive 2 hours to a Taco Bell in the desert.
And like, you're halfway there and you're like, you know what? I don't feel like it now. I'm just hungry. And you get food and you go back home.
Exactly. So I understand it.
I wanted to ask you, were you an X17 girl? I don't think that you and I have talked about this.
I was, but not to the degree of, you know, the way I was like Perez Hilton and stuff like that. I definitely was into it, but I feel like I'm maybe even more into it now because it is sort of the best archive of footage and stuff.
Without any question, have the best. They have archived everything. Sorry, MTV.
Sorry, baby.
I was a big X17 fan because obviously just because of Britney. For those who don't know, X17 was a paparazzi website, but it was not popular. And then the Britney stuff started happening. And for whatever reason, Britney really took a liking to the X17 photographers. Like, and I don't even know how she could figure out in the midst of 60 men, like, how do you know who's with just Jared or whatever? But they really became her favorite. Like, she would wear X17 hats. Her and her friends dressed up as X17 paparazzi for Halloween. She would give them exclusives, and they really were like her friends. You know, it's an interesting thing you don't really hear people talk about a lot, but like Britney's relationship with the paparazzi was so odd because there were times she was like hunted by them and they were mean to her and she was mean to them, and she would hit her camera on their car or like kick their car, call them motherfuckers or something. And then like 10 minutes later, they'd be pumping her gas and getting the bathroom key for her for the gas station and cleaning her windows. And she'd be hanging out with them. And it was just really odd, you know?
I have a theory that just kind of came to me, so I'll say it on the fly. Do you think that maybe Britney's attachment to them and weird relationship with them was they became an avatar for the public?
Ooh.
You know, like the love-hate relationship that she has with the public, with her fans, And also, they are the gatekeepers essentially to the public. They are creating the images that people will criticize and read into and stuff. It's her being able to almost be face to face with the public at large.
God, I've never thought about it that way, but yeah. I mean, she had to look at them that way. I mean, statistically, it's like 70 men, following you around. Like they kind of are the public opinion in a way. That's so interesting. And also, of course, it's like as fucked up as this is to say, it's like they were the only constant in her life. They were literally in a world where she like wasn't talking to her family and like didn't have a lot of friends
Yeah.
and they were like the constant. Like they were the people she would see all day and all night every single day for over a year. Like,
It's so Truman Show almost.
yeah. Yeah. And then they go into another quote. We've been waiting here since about 10 a.m. and the thrill at 8:39 p.m. as two hotel security guards appear at the entrance to the garage when Britney's 612 horsepower Mercedes SL65 AMG shoots out of the driveway, rips west on Burton Way and up Foothill Road, its sweet release. Britney drives like a rabbit being chased across a field. Trailed by 10 cars, she signals right, then turns left, glides into the left lane, makes a right on Wilshire Boulevard, slows from 50 miles per hour to about 15, then bangs an illegal U-turn, the brakes screeching in traffic. The driver in the lead mutters, bitch. Then he's cut off by the Mercedes, steered by Adnan Galib, a daredevil, fearless paparazzo who usually rides at the front of the pack. And it says if Britney has been in hiding all day and her paps have gotten no pictures, they hope for a red light at the top of Coldwater Canyon, the last intersection before her house. Tonight, they were lucky that Britney stopped and Galib pulls out his Benzito, the oncoming traffic lane, slams into park, and the gang crowds around her car for less than 1 minute. Like, absolutely fucking insane. And at the time, we thought that this was completely fine.
Well, and what I also find so interesting about it, so just after that, one of the X-17 videographers warns someone's going to get hurt, man. And for a split second, I thought to myself, did we learn nothing from Princess Diana? And then when I read the exact next line, I was like, oh, no, that's what they want to happen. Diana was sort of a potential blueprint for what was possible, which is creating chaos, and then she could potentially be killed. And they say in the next paragraph that they're thinking about who would get the video of her dying if she got into a car crash.
Yeah, it was much less about like, oh, this is dangerous. Like basically they were all in constant fear that they would not get the shot of her dying. So the reason that there was like 24-hour surveillance and following her around is like they wanted the shot of her crashing her car and dying or like ODing or something. And they're very, very unapologetic about it. There's a handful of guys that would be like, well, no, like we don't want that to happen. We love Britney. She's so nice, whatever. But for the most part, all of them wanted her to die.
Yeah.
Which is such a crazy thing to think about.
It kind of also does feel specifically like, I'm sure not all of them consciously thought this, but I'm sure there were some who did, of let's speed this up. Let's move this timeline along. And she's not a great driver. She's being erratic. If we just tire her out,
yeah,
driving her around, eventually she's going to make a mistake and wrap herself around a telephone pole. It really feels like there are some people trying to facilitate her death.
Right. And like in the meantime, if she doesn't end up dying tonight, we're going to get a ton of footage of her doing other crazy shit. Like she might go to a gas station and do something crazy. She might like go to the beach and swim in her underwear. Like we'll get all this stuff in between, but just make sure that you guys are on call for if she dies. And maybe one of us could even cause the death. Maybe one of us can run her off the road or like, run her off Mulholland Drive or something. And then, that would be a great shot. Like that's like kind of how they spoke about her at the time.
Well, and then there's another interesting part where they talk about getting the shot of her death is the videographer says that you can't legally sell a video of an accidental death. The caveat is you can sell it if it's proven that you were also calling 911 as the video is being shot.
I literally just got goosebumps. Oh my God, that is so dark. So I think that this is like the most important part of the article is that the way that like struggling young women in Hollywood were framed at this time was that it was their fault.
Yes.
And like us as the public, we're like, you have all this opportunity, you have all this money, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're funny, whatever, and you chose to throw it all away. And not only are you throwing it away, you're rubbing it in our faces that you're not gonna perform or whatever anymore. And like, how dare you? You are such a bitch for doing that. And that was like kind of the general consensus for like most young girls that were like going through it. So this little quote, they say Britney had an A-list team of publicists, managers, lawyers, and handlers that rivaled any superstar. Now she's essentially reduced that staff to one person, Sam Lupfi, a 33-year-old Hollywood gadabout. I don't know what a gadabout is. That sounds like an old-timey word.
I felt like there were some fun words being thrown around in here. I wrote down libidinal.
What's that?
They discuss it. I forget exactly which page, but they're talking about her driving around and stuff, and it's like based off of the word libido, libidinal. Like they were like it was like a release when she finally stops, and
they climax when she stopped.
Yeah, it's like a big buildup and then a climax, and libidinal.
Okay, wordsmiths, blender. Okay.
See, this is highbrow.
Hollywood gadabout with a questionable past, a couple of low-budget film credits as a producer, and no apparent qualifications for his current position. A prominent former Britney Spears advisor believes that Lupfi has the potential to cause enormous problems, to sink her deeper into the hole and exploit her in a lasting way. Like all child stars, Britney has always been exploited with varying degrees of calculation since her career began. So much so that it may be the kind of relationship in which she now feels most at home. She got chewed up by this new celebrity culture and spat out, so it's hard to not feel some sympathy for her, a VH1 executive Michael Hershon says. She really was turned into a lab rat. While her troubles include substance abuse, pressures from the public scrutiny, and a failure to understand that actions have consequences, many who have been close to her over the years agree that her most basic problem is something else that goes much deeper, says Melinda Bell, a former manager. It has to do with something about love. I thought that was like a nice blender.
I wrote down both of those quotes for a woman to be like, no, this is not about substance abuse or just simply mental illness. This is about love. And aren't all problems traced back to something about love? Hello. But also, I really was surprised by the VH1 executive vice president.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I thought of it as, wow, that's like really candid because, you are sort of a part of this music industry, and you and your company are kind of also facilitating this lab rat.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm really surprised that he would say that. But then I realized the reason why is because VH1 was not in the business of Britney Spears.
Yeah.
That's MTV. So he could speak that way because they weren't covering Britney.
Yeah. That's not Faith Hill. That's Britney Spears. She's not one of our girls.
We're doing Divas Live. We're fine.
That is like, I'm so fucking happy that you brought that up because it's so important. Because I thought the exact same thing. It's like, yeah, of course you could say that, but you know who wouldn't say that? Is like an MTV executive would never say that because they were like, they created her downfall. They benefited from her downfall. They punished her for her downfall. They celebrated her. I mean, MTV created Britney Spears and then helped shatter her, essentially.
Yeah.
They go into talking about, like, of course, her being the breadwinner for her family. Like, they talk about her origin story, which I've said many times that, Britney's origin story was like, it was just so shoved down our throats for so long. And even more so when the quote breakdown happened, where they were like constantly feeling the need to remind people of her rags to riches and how she was this sweet Southern girl. And it was very Steel Magnolias. And can you believe that this would happen to such a sweet Southern girl who grew up working at her grandma's crawdaddy booth or whatever?
I'm going to start calling you crawdaddy.
But then they go into, and they also mention, that Britney they really want to hammer home that she's like not close to her family. So they're like, just recently, like her sister, you know, was pregnant and Britney was the only person who didn't know. And there's that really famous video of her finding out that Jamie Lynn is pregnant, like from a paparazzi, and him being like, no, like she announced it today. And she's like, no, she didn't. And they're like, Britney, yes, she did. All that to say, are you familiar with Johnny Wright, Britney's former manager?
Not really. I mean, like I have name recognition, but I don't really know much of the I don't remember much of the stories about it.
So Johnny Wright was like, he was sort of like the creative, where Larry Rudolph was like financial, like a financial manager. So Larry Rudolph was like a financial advisor and a lawyer, whereas Johnny Wright was like the one that came up with the idea of like the crop tops and like the imagery and the Lolita and all of that stuff. Like he was very much like a mastermind when it came to imagery. And he was a huge part of Britney's team since she was introduced. He knew her since she was like 15. And then when all of this stuff started happening, he parted ways with her. And you want to know what that motherfucker did? Are you ready for this?
Oh,
He was hired by Justin Timberlake
no.
to creatively be a part of Future Sex Love Sounds. So he went from creating Britney Spears to then working on the project that Justin Timberlake was using to launch his solo, his whatever. Like he then immediately went and exploited her professionally.
People are so goddamn evil.
It's like fucking insane. So they say in this quote, that year she also parted ways with her co-manager, teen pop heavyweight Johnny Wright, whose creative vision has helped shape her image. Her other longtime manager, Larry Rudolph, was a deal maker and helped with her personal life and finances. And then she crossed another fateful line, French kissing Madonna at the 2003 VMAs. Quote, this is a quote from Johnny. I'm just gonna ad lib kind of because this is like quoted weird. I think when I copied it. I remember watching that performance as one of her former handlers and thinking, it's all sensationalism now. Tweens and moms were appalled and the shock value was not worth it.
I would argue it was.
Yeah, like he basically was like, yeah, I was done with her like way before really, but I just hadn't been fired yet. It was like the vibe that he gave to the public.
God, I don't remember being appalled. I just remember being upset that they cut away for Justin's reaction instead of letting us see Christina kiss Madonna. That's where my head was at.
Tell me that you're a straight middle-aged man without telling me that you are a straight middle-aged man that does not understand it and does not get the vibe. Like, to be like, we all lost respect for her when she kissed Madonna. Like, that's not how that played out, sir.
No, the people were titillated,
honey,
by such taboos at that time.
Our loins were tingling, okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, they get into the Kevin of it all. I feel like I don't know if there's like a whole lot more that can be said about her relationship to Kevin Federline. I thought that this quote was great. They say later that year, when Spears had a one-night stand with an LFO backup dancer named Kevin Federline, nicknamed Meat Pole for his manhood, it turned into a three-day stand at the Beverly Hills. According to a Federline family friend, all they did was have sex and order room service. Afterwards, he called his brother Chris and said, "You are not going to believe whose back I broke." And the friend bragged that they hadn't used condoms. If you want to know the tone of Blender magazine, there it is right there.
One thing I did find interesting about the Kevin part of the article, I feel like this article gives like a really, I don't know if it's knowingly doing it, but a sort of psychological view into Britney, where she says about their reality show Chaotic, where if you are not initiated, much of the videography is Kevin and Britney taking the video themselves. It's real found footage, Blair Witch Project vibes. But it says in an interview, Britney explains how she overcomes obstacles to intimacy with Kevin. Quote, "I'm not really good with just really being intimate one-on-one, and I think it helped me to have a camera there instead of it just being me and him." Very interesting little view into her psyche.
Because you can feel that when you watch Chaotic. You can feel that the camera, for a girl who was like a former child star who's only ever been on camera her whole life, and like, it's like the thing that makes her so great is that she kind of lights up when a camera is on her, which is why she was such a sure thing. But it is interesting to see it play out in her personal life as this unwell crutch that she's dependent on. Like, a security blanket is the camera.
It kind of really is a lab rat quality where the media and the powers that be create this performing little girl, a sexy Lolita performing girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time goes on, that turns her into almost her own monster where she's dependent on a camera to get every sort of validation. So she needs the camera to express herself. She can't do it without it. And then she also needs a camera, the cameras of the paparazzi around her, as almost a security blanket.
Yeah. Ugh, tying in the paparazzi cameras is like, that is so valid. Because, yeah, like, she was definitely, I think that all child stars to some degree are addicted to attention in a really negative way. And I always use Aaron Carter as an example because he literally Instagram lived himself to death. Like, he literally, the internet killed Aaron Carter. Like, you could say that he OD'd, but really the internet slowly descended him into a mania, and he literally couldn't stop. Like, even the negative attention he couldn't stop. And I feel like Britney is similar right now. Like, she knows that the world is judging her and making fun of her and whatever, but she can't stop being on camera. She can't get off the internet. She can't get off Instagram. She's addicted to it.
Well, and it makes sense. Realistically, especially with something like Instagram, where she can both be on camera and then sort of see herself on camera instantly, and then also have this quick news cycle talking about everything she does. Before Instagram, before TikTok and social media, if you were going to put something out there, there was so much time between the filming of it and it coming out and getting that feedback. The closest thing was paparazzi.
It's so true. It's like calling into TRO.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like you have so little options to like connect with the public. Like, yeah, it is the paparazzi, and then you just kind of hope, that within the next week it is presented how you hoped, and it of course isn't.
Yeah.
We go into like the rehab of it all, and like this is where they really lean into the, unfortunately, Britney Spears didn't want to complete rehab, and she's the reason that this is happening, and this is her fault because she didn't want to do rehab. So they say last Valentine's Day, an inner circle and of family and friends gathered to persuade Britney to seek help for substance abuse. She flew with Larry Rudolph to rehab. The next day she checked out, returned to LA, shaved her head, attacked a paparazzi's car with an umbrella, and spent 5 days going wild before voluntarily checking into Promises Rehab Center in Malibu, where she stayed for 30 days of the 45-day program. And they say, I thought this was very interesting, she ended her rehabilitation early because that would have required her to admit in front of the world that she has a problem. That was the one thing that she couldn't do, says one of Britney's closest companions during this time. Sounding eaten by frustration, is there anyone on the planet except for Britney Spears who cannot see that she has a problem? After that, she pushed away her family and literally everyone. So they're like, yeah, she just can't admit that she has an issue, so this is her fault. None of us are doing anything to drive her.
And also on top of it, people are so simple. I feel like so many people see a person who has a substance abuse issue and they kind of chalk it up to the substance abuse is the cause of everything and not a symptom of something else.
Right. And like, if you think about it from her perspective, it's like, this is something that in her mind is happening to her.
Yes.
She's being attacked from every corner. She's having the media turn against her. Like, people are being violent with her out in public. She can't walk down the street. Like, men are being physically violent with her. Like, what is there to admit? You know what I mean? It's like, why is she the
Yeah.
one that needs to admit something? Like, if anything, it should be culture and society admitting that, like, they've taken part in trying to kill this girl for a headline, because it would make an interesting news cycle for a couple weeks that she died. You know, it's like she just doesn't want to admit it. It's like, admit what? That she's being run off the road by people when she drives?
I don't know. She can't admit that she has a drug and alcohol problem, which is why she left rehab. It's like, or maybe the problem is not necessarily an addiction to anything,
Yeah.
and maybe just sticking her in a rehab facility that is going to just be like the primary focus is addiction.
Right.
Maybe that's not going to really resonate with her
Yeah.
if that's not actually the core issue here.
Yeah, maybe the like Jack and Cokes isn't the reason for all of this. Maybe you're trying to reduce it down to the only, like, the handful of things that she could be blamed for. That's the reason. We're just going to
Yeah.
exclude everything else. But I mean, at the time, I guess, like, we didn't even have the tools to, like, look within and know. I mean, we were just brain rotted idiots. Like, we were really monsters, you know? They end up going back into because at this time, like, I think people had a more of an understanding of her relationship with the paparazzi. I think that that's something that's just been lost in translation over time, and having this story be told through documentaries that are kind of like half-assing it and cutting loose ends and things like that. Like, but at this time, people who watched the paparazzi videos were very aware of, like, her weird relationship with these men. And they have this quote where they say TMZ and X17 Online share videos of Britney taken in the months following her custody suspension. They show her running stop signs and rolling over paparazzi's feet. She bumps into another pap with her car, wincing, sorry, 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 in a baby voice. Then she can't figure out how to exit a parking garage, looks pleadingly to the paparazzis, and they come to her aid. They pump her gas. They guide her through everyday confusions at fast food drive-through windows, and often they'll pick up her tab. Not without reason, she seems to think that there's no need to settle her own accounts. She plays the role they expect her to play. In a Van Nuys filling station, she picks up a $1.39 Bic lighter and walks out, looking into the camera and saying, I stole something. Ooh, my bad. Ooh.
Oh, I love that. I'm just picturing you and Hollister stealing Blender magazines and going, ooh, my bad.
Yeah. But it just kind of ends with them going into a Sam Lutfi thing, which we don't have to, like, you know, we all know who Sam Lutfi is at this point. Explaining that she's, like, scary and that she, you know, he shouldn't be in her life. They also talk about one thing that I feel like you and I are going to touch on a lot in this podcast is, like, these weird countdowns that we used to have.
Yes.
For, like, virginity and people getting out of prison and whatever. And Britney, I don't know if you remember this or not, but, like, there were so many suicide countdowns for Britney on
Yes.
the internet at the time.
I remember these.
It says, for countless observers, Britney's latest unraveling brought that impulse to the surface. A Detroit radio station announced that they had canceled a Britney Suicide Watch contest, inviting listeners to name the date for a $1,000 prize, just shy of grave dancing. And Perez Hilton also gloated on his website, receiving an all-time high of more than 10 million hits on one day when Britney was hospitalized, saying, thanks, Britney. But yeah, I mean, that's just like this is like the vibe of this magazine, unfortunately, which makes me really sad looking at it again as an adult.
It also makes me think of people who say stuff like, "Oh, woke culture. I'm so sick of woke culture. You can't say anything these days without getting in trouble." And I just look at this and go, if you really look at what it used to look like before, if you think that it was better to have no guardrails, then you are just a bad person.
For sure.
If you think it's better to have suicide watch countdown contests, then you're the type of person that I cannot get through to.
1000%. And I'm sorry, but, like, I love seeing Perez Hilton just fishtail endlessly. Like his like the crippling anxiety that he used to cause people, I would imagine he now has for trying to stay relevant. Like he just can't do it. Nobody cares about him anymore. Young people do
No.
not respect him. Even the people who grew up going to his website like us, we don't even respect him. Like there's nobody defending him. And I mean, it's just so funny watching him try and do anything he can to like regain relevancy.
I have a thought that's only slightly related to the article.
Mhm.
Earlier, when it says that Britney's hooking up with bad boys, Fred Durst and Colin Farrell,
Mm.
I had this thought about Colin sort of recently, and I'm asking you because I need to deep dive back into it and decide. But was he perhaps one of the only guys who was portrayed in the media somewhat similarly to women, in the sense of he was a bad boy, he was a sex addict, he's this mess, blah blah blah. And then I just did like a cursory Google looking into it, and I was like, I don't remember him ever doing anything beyond just sort of like being someone who has a lot of sex and parties. Like I feel like they painted him into almost like a bad guy.
Yeah.
But when you really look into it, he seems like a kind of good guy
Yeah.
who just partied too hard for a little bit. I have a large soft spot for Colin, not even in just like an attraction to him, but like I think he seems like a nice man,
Like a good boy.
like a good boy, like a nice sensitive boy who was just getting fucked this way, that way, and sideways, you know?
I totally agree with that. I mean, I never really thought about it, but like when you said that, I was like trying to rack my brain and think about like actual scandals that he was involved in, like actual things, like tangible things, not just like his reputation. But like there weren't any. Like he didn't storm out of interviews. He didn't throw chairs through Today Show windows. He didn't fight with people in public. He didn't get in fights on the red carpet. Like he didn't have like the Kid Rock story that they tried to make it seem like, or like Tommy Lee or
No.
something.
Or Fred Durst, like putting him side by side with Fred Durst. Fred Durst was a fucking
Yeah.
asshole. But everything, and even Britney talks about, I forget exactly what she said, but there's some, I forget where it was, where she talks about Colin and she says just like what a nice guy he is.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And she mentions like his family and she says like, when we
Yes.
hung out, I got really close to his mom and like, because he's really close to his mom. Well, listen, people ask me this all the time, my favorite celebrity sex tape, and he's consistently my answer. I will also say
Ooh,
that I think
yes.
he has the best sex tape ever. I don't think that it could ever be topped. He is like, it is so good. We support him on this podcast for sure.
This is a Colin approved.
Yes.
Well, we approve. Also, I'm pretty sure this is a thing. Is it possible that he was treated this way because I believe there are some stories about him that lean a little bisexual?
Well, that was going to be my next point.
Yes.
He was allegedly a Spacey boy. He was a Kevin Spacey. What do you call it? Like ingenue, if you will. And there were like a lot of rumors about how, because like one of his first, if not his first project, was a Kevin Spacey movie, and there were a lot of rumors about how like he had to like do the Kevin Spacey thing. And I don't know if any of you watched the Kevin Spacey documentary, but when you know the way Kevin operates, like he would walk up to any even remotely attractive guy and like take their hand, put it on his crotch, grab their butt, try and finger them in front of people. Like he was like literally crazy. I highly doubt that Colin Farrell survived around Kevin Spacey without like,
No way. Yeah, I feel like he was one of the only playboys. We had a lot of playboys at the time that were actually shitheads
Yeah.
often, that were not kind of catching the heat that he was, but he seems to be kind of the only one. Whether they're true or not, I bet they are, because I think there's way more bisexual fucking in Hollywood than I just know there is. I feel like he's the only one who's sort of caught heat because he's just, having his threesomes.
Yeah, I do. Like, now that you've said that, I'm like, I do wonder how much of that was put out by publicists and stuff to like make him feel really macho and really not bisexual.
Yeah.
Even his sex tape, like it being with like a Playboy model, like it was all very like he never
Yes.
stops smoking and he never stops fucking and he's so hot and he's dirty and he's got greasy hair and he smells like whiskey and it's hot.
Oh, Troy, I feel like that is counteracting the bisexual stuff,
Yeah.
making him seem more manly. I mean, that's got to be it.
And now we've said it.
And now we've said it.
Now, with that being said, we need for you to turn to page 22 of your instruction manuals because we're going to introduce a new article here that is titled Bravazima or whatever. Bravazima. That's Italian, right?
Bravissima.
No, Dara, it's Bravamisa.
Bravamisa, if you please.
Quote, Lindsay Lohan bags 3 dudes, goes off the wagon in Italy. And this is a photo. I want to mention one more thing about Blender. They would acquire these crazy pictures that you would never see anywhere else because no magazine would be so bold to post. They have a photo. It says Lindsay Lohan and actor Dario Facila in I Know Who Dry Humped Me, where they're making out.
And she's just absolutely straddling him.
She literally said surfboard. She's grinding on his wood and he's squeezing her ass and they're at a party. And I'm just like, no, that is crazy. Like only Blender would be like, Leah, let's put that picture in the magazine.
The picture sort of makes me nostalgic for youth, just being at a party and just disgustingly mounted on top of a boy.
Yeah.
Slobbering all over each other. Oh.
I'm like, what time is it? Is it early enough to go find a boy to slobber on at a party?
It's 5:00 somewhere, baby.
It says Lindsay Lohan has been keeping busy. The same week, an ex-boyfriend called her a nymphomaniac. And are you ready for this? An AOL movie phone poll said that her turn in I Know Who Killed Me was the worst performance of 2007. Lohan has spent romantic time with 3 men in 24 hours and was given an award for her contribution to cinema. In Italy, to receive the non-ironic honor, Lohan was seen pounced on top of actor Dario Fiella in the middle of a party. During her 3-day stay, the multi-rehabbed celebrity was also photographed drinking from a bottle of champagne. Thank you, Noelle Beddy, for that amazingly written article. I want to ask you about I Know Who Killed Me. What do you think about that movie? Because I love it.
Well, canonically, I saw that film in theaters on the first day at the first showing.
Wow, that's so cool. Do you remember seeing it?
Oh, yes, I do. I believe, did it come out in the summer?
Yeah, I think it was a summer movie.
Yeah, because I was going to say so it came out on a Friday, so I either cut class or it came out in the summer.
Wow.
Both things could have been true. I saw it with my gay friend Ian. I guess I was watching it through the lens of wanting Lindsay to come out with a good movie just to sort of bring her back.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember seeing it and it was clearly not going to be a career reviver.
How dare you?
But I loved like the look of it. I liked the filmmaking of it. I mean, it was a little heavy-handed. I think it's a great camp movie.
I think so too. I think that it should be more popular as a camp film than it is. Like,
I'm surprised that it's not.
It's actually shocking that it's not, because it's really entertaining. It's very funny. And like you said, it's beautifully shot. Like, there are things that they try to do with that movie. I actually did a review of that movie for Dunzo, like a truly, through and through, let's review this film. And there are things about that movie that they they try and like they want it to be its own iconic erotic thriller, right? And you and I
Yes,
love an erotic thriller, and like I'm
we
always going to
do.
support anybody trying to further the erotic thriller vibe, because at this time, like, they weren't cool anymore. You know, this is like
No.
10 years after they're like a cool thing to do.
Yeah, and erotic thrillers always had that sort of, most of them have a sort of campy, tongue-in-cheek vibe to it.
Hmm.
So I feel to a degree, because we were sort of past the heyday of erotic thrillers, people weren't watching it through the correct lens.
Yeah.
And also for it to be Lindsay, who it was just a new thing for her to be in a movie like
Mhm.
that where she's having sex and everything. So I think it was not the right movie for the right time for people to latch onto it. I also think a problem with the movie is that I remember being really disappointed that the ending does not facilitate the
Yeah,
title.
I know. That's the big thing. Like, that's the thing that I think really, aside from, like you said, at the time, like, you know, we were hating on anything Lindsay did. Like, it was a real anti-Lindsay era. Like, she was in
Mhm.
like the lowest point of her career and her life at the time. Like, this was seen as a real step down for somebody who, you know, at her heyday was like a multi-billion-dollar box office star. To them be doing I Know Who Killed Me was like, damn, like the mighty really have fallen. But really, the movie could have, I think, become like, I think the thing that holds it back from being a camp classic is the ending and the reveal. It just is so anticlimactic, and like, you know, I mean, all the makings are there, but it's just that, and like Lindsay Lohan is a bionic arm.
Well, and also I think so. I think to put it in the same conversation of Jennifer's Body came back around as a cult classic, but it's a very different movie in the sense that it is a really legitimately good movie unironically,
Mhm.
and part of the reason why it didn't do well was because of the marketing.
Yeah.
It was marketed to boys and it should have been marketed to
Yeah.
girls. I mean, I say that in the most stereotypical boys and girls way possible.
But I know what you
Um,
mean though. They were trying to be like, "Hey, Megan Fox is really hot. Go see this." And that was not the demo.
and that was not the demo, but it is a legitimately great film that just was ahead of its time.
Mhm.
I Know Who Killed Me is camp where like we should be watching it at bars and we're all dressing up in Lindsay Lohan outfits.
1000%. It deserves a re-examining, and it deserves a reintroduction. Like, and it's like so Lindsay. Like, if you like that, like Shannon Doherty Lindsay, like that dark-haired smoking, you know,
Oh,
wrecking her car, fucking 3 guys in 3 days in Italy, Lindsay Lohan. This movie celebrates that. I actually think it's kind of smart looking back that, like, you know, at a time when her public persona had taken such a hit and she had become known as this like renegade drug whore, she did a movie that kind of like leans in. Like, her character in the movie is dark Lindsay. When you remember when she's like learning to work the arm, and it's like it's like the arm, it's like idle hands. Like, she's literally Cyclops when he takes off his glasses, he can't control his power. Like, she like is crushing things and she has to learn how to smoke with it. It's just like, it's such an odd movie. It's just a weird fucking movie, but it's fun. If you guys have not watched I Know Who Killed Me, or have never, a lot of people I know have probably never seen it, give it a shot. Like,
let's all give it a shot and report back.
yeah, have yourself a little joint moment, like get really stoned and just like watch it. It's so camp and so fun.
This is a movie where I have just snapshots of so many parts of it, and I would just love to revisit it because I remember, the sex scene in the movie was something people were really talking about because this was the first sex scene
Hmm.
that Lindsay had ever done. And I think one of the reasons why people were so against this movie was, an actress is allowed to grow up into sex scenes, but they have to be for a higher art.
Yeah.
It cannot be frivolous. It cannot be funny. It has to be, this has to be potentially Oscar bait.
Mhm.
It has to be the end has to justify the
Yeah.
means of doing a sex scene. This did not do that, and I remember watching it and just being kind of shocked by the sex scene
Yeah.
because it is played so funny
It's so
but
goofy.
serious at the same time. It's very tongue-in-cheek, and it is kind of, I remember being like, wow, this is actually like, I'm surprised it's this much of a sex scene.
It was a lot. And like like Lindsay is very much like, I'm trying to think of a way to say this politically correctly, but like she's whore Lindsay. Like that chain smoking, like red lip, dark haired, too tan Lindsay of 2007 is like crystallized in this film. And I feel like so much of this was her playing a version of herself that she like didn't get to play out on camera ever, like the darkest parts of herself. And I remember her saying at the time that well, like years after, that this was like the hardest movie that she had ever filmed because she was going through such a horrible time in her life. And you can like you can see it playing out in this movie. Like it plays out in this really kind of like Shakespearean, really sad, but also very intriguing and very sexy way. Can I also just very quickly say, this is off the topic of the movie, but it's on the same page. Belinda used to do this thing where they would put celebrity quotes like in other magazines, but it was a parody of other magazines doing that. That's another thing, is like this magazine makes fun of other magazines, but they do it in this kind of tongue-in-cheek way. So they do celebrity quotes, but they only do really dumb quotes that don't make any sense and are to make the celebrity look stupid. And this one is from 50 Cent, and it says, sorry. It says, I won't get a chance to see the world unless I go everywhere.
And ain't that the truth?
Ain't that logic?
Yeah, I was not expecting Blender to be as funny, as tongue-in-cheek and kooky as it is. It really is very.
It's got a really strong voice. Like it, like you said earlier, it really does feel like a person put all this together, and like it's in their comedic voice, and it's consistently through every page like funny, which is not common with these magazines. Like when they do try and be funny, it's usually really cheesy. But then where things get really dark is like what they think is funny sometimes is like, whoa, like how, like they have an entire page 26 that's just like an Amy Winehouse day by day.
That hit me in not a fun way.
Like I'm looking at this page right now. I remember just seeing this stuff all the time. Like making fun of Amy Winehouse was such a common thing, and she gave them so much content, like being outside high, just being at the will of these people, and like people had such little respect for her that they were like, yeah, like film in her house, like zoom in on her bedroom window, and
Ugh.
like it was just so taunting and so evil, like just so cruel.
I guess this is the difference between maybe American media and the British media, where yes, Britney was in a very bad spot, but we were not seeing Britney with cut marks up and down her arms and things like truly wasting away. Like, I don't know if Britney looked like this, if it was this visceral where she has sores all over her body and she's legitimately doing
Yeah,
heroin and you're seeing track marks and she's 80 pounds, would it be the same reaction?
I don't think so.
I don't think it would. I think at a certain point it would be too real.
Yeah, there's almost like Britney's breakdown was like talked about in spite of her origin. Like it was like, oh, can you believe like our Southern girl, like our sweet girl, that giggly, bubbly, happy girl with the abs is like You know, it was always like, look at her in comparison to what she used to be. Isn't that crazy? Whereas Amy's was like, we were introduced to Amy as an addict, and her first song was Rehab. So I feel like it felt like we had permission to do things like this, to post these pictures of her. Just to explain this page to the people who are not seeing it visually, it's called Diva 911, and it's like from November of 2007 to January of 2008, they do like a play by play of like what Amy Winehouse did for like those months. And it's like the first one is sporting a nostril impacted with a suspicious looking white substance. It's literally just a zoom in of her having coke in her nose. And it's like all these horrendous, scary, really violent, like terrifying pictures of her out, fucked up, shoeless, bleeding, you know, crying, spitting. And it was a big joke. And I do really feel like it was like, well, you know, that's how we were introduced to her. We have every right to make fun of her for being an addict because it's like all we know of her, basically.
It also just made me think of, the another difference between Britney and Amy was at that time, Britney really only had the respect from her fans.
Mhm.
She wasn't considered a respectable musician.
Right.
But Amy was. Amy was mainstream. This is a top tier musician. And it makes me think of what would the pictures and blogs be like if they were around like when Janis Joplin
Oh, wow.
or Stevie Nicks. What paparazzi pictures and stories, what would that look like?
That's interesting. Because if you think about it, it's almost like it's easy for us to romanticize the somebody like Janis Joplin's addiction, when if you know anything about Janis Joplin, you know she basically was Amy Winehouse. Like, you know, she was like ODing all the time and almost dying all the time, and like was like really, it was intense. But like we're able to romanticize it because it wasn't chronologically played out like this. That's so interesting.
Well, and Amy, they're both in the 27 Club.
Yeah. Wow. What would Blender magazine look like with Janis Joplin on the cover and in an article? Like, that is so interesting.
God, I almost want an AI version.
Right.
Or even Stevie Nicks, someone who
Yeah.
I feel like her drug past is so a footnote.
And even like her relationship.
Oh my God, can you imagine her relationship, like rumors just being played out in the blog?
In the blogs. That's another thing that we're able to romanticize the messiness of that band, because we didn't get all the gory details. Like, we got it through art. Just blew my mind. Like, and it would have been so much easier for somebody. Well, I always say when it comes to Amy, especially, like, Amy Winehouse was never meant for the kind of fame that she obtained. Like, Frank era Amy Winehouse made so much sense. Her going to like jazz bars and performing at, you know, the House of Blues and shit like that. And like, yes, she became very, very famous and performed at award shows and stuff, but she wasn't the headliner at Coachella yet. That is not, like, even thinking about that now, I'm just like, what? Like, in what world did anybody think it was a good idea for Amy Winehouse, a jazz crooner, to go perform at Lollapalooza or whatever, or Glastonbury or whatever? It's like mind bending to even think that that's like where they felt she belonged. And she never did. Like, even at her absolute best at that time, it always felt really foreign and uncomfortable for her to be performing at those places. Like, it's just sad that her album, this amazing work that she created, like, it almost became in spite of. Like, it was like, well, you made this album that everybody loves. Like, you made, like, you know, this generation's like emancipation of Lauryn Hill, basically. And now we're gonna literally work you like a fucking slave. That'll definitely be a page for the Patreon. I feel uncomfortable even posting it on the internet. Like, it's so dark.
This is for behind the paywall.
Yeah. Which, speaking of, should we take this conversation behind the paywall now?
Let's take it behind the paywall. So thanks for listening. Yeah. If you want to hear more, we'll just be right over at Patreon. We're going there right now. Meet us in the back room.
We're gonna go talk about R. Kelly now.
Okay. Follow us on Instagram. What's Your Issue Show? Rate, review, subscribe.
Please review and subscribe. We've gotten a lot of DMs about how great the first episode was, which we're very appreciative of. Thank you guys for listening. And also review it. Review the show, please.
Please review, because also I know podcasters say this for every episode, but this is a brand new show. So this is a very important time.
We need it.
We need it. We need your help. Aren't we friends? Please.
Now we're going to take our bionic arms and bid you adieu. We love you so much.
Adieu, adieu.
Bye.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Love music?
We do too.
Well, if you ever feel like it's hard to keep up, though, don't worry. We're here to help.
Monday through Friday, Daily Music Headlines gets you the top happenings in music, from chart toppers, news releases, concert announcements, and more.
All in less than 5 minutes.
Don't miss out. Get the show at dailymusicheadlines.com.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.